This is Colin Liddell, and this is the Shortpod, a brief and succinct podcast commenting on the events and issues of the day. And today it is the 9th of March 2024. This year is a year of particular political significance, not only because of the large number of elections taking place, but also because of the changing political landscape, and in particular the way that elections are manipulated, distorted, and hacked by bad actors. This will probably be the last year in which AI technology will operate unhindered by legislation, so analysts are expecting a lot of interesting surprises, both in the US and the UK elections. Another important factor that will probably have an enormous impact is the growing desperation of the Russians, who are the main party interested in hacking and distorting elections in the West. Financially, Russia is slowly being squeezed to death, and so their best hope for a victory in the Ukraine war is subversion of the political process in the West. And this also provides them with a relatively cheap and effective means of fighting back against the global system. So Putin is certainly redoubling his efforts to fuck up elections in the Anglosphere. And he has had considerable success already. In fact, you could say that he has destroyed two of the four main political parties in the Anglo democracies. The Conservative Party, partly through its own weaknesses and failings, but also with considerable help from Mr. Putin, has been gutted and eviscerated. Right now it is running at 18% in the polls. Reflected at a general election, this would lead to an electoral wipeout. Putin has also managed to achieve this effect at relatively minor cost. If you look at UK opinion polls, you will see Labour far off in the lead with well over 40%. Meanwhile, the Tories are on 18%, but the significant factor is the Reform UK vote, which is around 13%. Now, most of those people are people who would normally vote Conservative in a traditional Labour versus Conservative choice. The Tory party has taken these people for granted for too long, and now in recent years this group has been increasingly split off from the Conservative Party. This 13% is what I would describe as the hardcore gammon vote. They are conservative, older people who don't like the EU and don't like immigration. They normally vote Conservative, but the Conservative Party hasn't really done enough, in their opinion, on any of these issues. And so this has allowed people like Nigel Farage, UKIP, and now the Reform Party to come along and offer them false hope. But the real strategic objective here is not to give them a voice in Parliament. It is to split them off from the Conservative Party and thereby to destroy the Conservative Party as an important electoral force. The main effort to achieve this is spearheaded by, as I have already alluded, Nigel Farage, a one-time frequent contributor to Russia Today. Right now, his main booster is GB News, a fake news channel that is funded out of Dubai from a former business associate of Vladimir Putin, believe it or not, and also a fake TV news channel that has now lost its investors £76 million. This is a relatively small price to pay to completely split the Conservative Party's vote in two and to make it largely unelectable. In America, there has been a similar but also quite different demolition job done on the Republican Party. Here, the emphasis has been on changing the balance within the party. Now, the Republican Party has always had a strong America First isolationist undercurrent, But generally speaking, this has been overbalanced by the more proactive globalist, inverted commas, neocon element in the party. So what's happened in recent years with the rise of Donald Trump is that this undercurrent of isolationism has been ramped up through a kind of process of promoting QAnon conspiracy theories and general paranoia about Jews and the deep state and the swamp and global elites and George Soros, etc., etc. This has significantly altered the balance in the Republican Party so that now it is mainly controlled by a form of isolationism headed by Donald Trump. So the Russian deep state has been very effective in both weakening and distorting the Conservative Party in the UK and the Republican Party in America. Traditionally, these are the two more proactive globalist parties, but the Kremlin has not been ignoring the Labour Party and the Democratic Party. In the UK, it appears that the British deep state has managed to win back control of the Labour Party, and I would see Sir Keir Starmer, the present leader, has more or less as a kind of deep state-backed candidate who was part of an operation to defeat Jeremy Corbyn, who definitely was a candidate that the Russians would be very happy to see in 10 Downing Street. Now, in my analysis, which is still highly hypothetical, I also believe that the Kremlin is currently attacking the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party is a tougher boot for them to chew on. What we have seen in recent months with the war in Gaza, that to me looks like it might be best understood as an attempt by Putin to cause chaos and confusion in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is made up of a large, heavily Jewish donor base with ties and interests in Israel, young, white, secular liberals who like to morally signal and who are very concerned about wars and refugees and those kinds of issues. And also there's a large ethnic component of blacks and other non-whites who naturally sympathize with the Palestinians in a case like the present war. So this war cuts right across the Democratic Party. A lot of people in the Democratic Party think that Joe Biden should be doing a lot more to help the Palestinians, to hold back the Israelis, to broker a peace deal, to make sure that aid and humanitarian assistance get in. But at the same time, the Democratic Party's hands are tied by the party's ties to Jewish donors and by deep state military security considerations. So right now, Joe Biden is relatively skillfully trying to manage this curveball that I believe the Kremlin has thrown at him. In the UK, however, the governing Conservative Party is in complete disarray. Reform UK isn't even a real party, it's a private company which is owned by Nigel Farage and Richard Tice. But that is doing enough to make sure that the Tories won't be re-elected. Instead, we'll have Keir Starmer. Admittedly, he is a British deep state choice. But once in power, it will be relatively easy for the Kremlin to undermine the Keir Starmer Labour government in various ways. So this is the framework through which I'm currently viewing the electoral contests in Britain and America. And as I said, this is hypothetical to a large degree, but you always have to view things through a wider framework if you want to reformulate or understand them at a more profound level. Over and out.